Join me today as we talk about Agatha All Along. This is the Geek Cabal channel. My name's Bobby, and we're going to talk about Agatha All Along, the Marvel show on Disney+. Now, I did an episode talking about the first 2 episodes of the show, and then I fell behind on my watching, and, well, then it became horror movie season, so, got a little distracted. But the finale was a couple nights ago, the day before Halloween. They released the last 2 episodes that night. I was caught up by that point. I just didn't get around to making videos for each episode. So this is going to be kind of a series wrap-up kind of deal. I'm not going to go back and do one for each episode. I will say overall, I thought the series was okay. I don't have any major problems with it. I was kind of curious as to what was going to happen, like in each next episode. To understand what is happening, you need to have seen Wandavision and probably Multiverse of Madness, or at least understand what happens at the end of Multiverse of Madness. So I'm going to get into spoilers here in a minute, but like I said, overall the show is okay. It's not great, but it's not god-awful either. It's not the MCU's version of The Acolyte. Although it does share some similarities. There's some musical numbers. It's the same song over and over again, though, and it's a better song than the whole Power of One, Power of Two, Power of Many, Power of Baloney that we got from Star Wars in The Acolyte. And yeah, it's definitely a better written song than that. So it's got that going for it. Now you're going to hear it enough times that you're probably going to be like, yeah, that's enough of that by the time it's over with. So, other than that, the acting was competent. The main one was Catherine Hahn. I think she did a decent job with what she was given. I don't know hardly anything about her character in terms of comics, other than the fact that she's supposed to be an old woman, and she doesn't look like that until the final episode. So, and even then it's really just gray hair. So I cannot attest to the authenticity as far as as an adaptation. I don't know anything about the other characters, if any of them are even known characters, and if I think Aubrey Plaza's character, don't know if she can actually be who they say she is. Yeah, I'll get into that here in a minute. But yeah, so overall it's okay. There's a couple twists at the end that crop up in the final, the final little tidbit of episode 8. I think there's 9 episodes, and then the final episode. And the final episode, you'll feel a little sorry for Agatha for what happens. And then you'll start feeling less sorry for her after the thing happens. So, yeah, I mean, overall, it kept my interest enough that I kind of wanted to see each next episode, but not so much that I just had to race and watch it as soon as it came out, if that makes sense. So, it was decent. I have to imagine I'm not the target demographic for the show, but I could be wrong. Given its largely female focus, I'm assuming that the target audience for the show is actually women. But again, I'm not so sure. I don't know how well it appealed to women. The only person I know of the only other person I talked to who watched the whole thing was my sister, who said it was okay. Nothing to write home about, but nothing awful either. So I don't know what that says about anything, but of course, I don't know if she watched WandaVision. So anyway, so that's the best I can give it. Is it's not awful. It's not great. It's better than The Acolyte. It didn't go around just absolutely smashing lore right and left and have a bunch of just really stupid things happen. There's some parts that are cringe, and some of the things they encounter on the Witch's Road. The use of the Salem 7 was totally pointless. They did absolutely nothing, and yeah. So I thought the tarot episode was good though. And that's episode, I think, 6 or 7. I thought that one was good. So, anyway, that's about the most I can say without going into spoilers. So, here we go into spoilers. So, the boy that accompanies them is Wiccan, who is the Scarlet Witch's son. As everything was collapsing at the end of WandaVision, there was a kid in a car accident, and I don't know if the implication is he died or what, but somehow Wiccan's soul escaped the collapsing spell thing that was over the town and inhabited the kid's body. So from that point forward, it's him and not the kid, and which is a point of contention where Agatha, points out to him that, he's doing an awful lot of sermonizing to her. And she's like, yeah, but that's not your body now, is it? Like, is he dead? Is he still in there? Like, what exactly did you do there? Because I notice you're not just giving it up. So, that was needed for a little bit of a reality check on him. Speaking of reality, he's a reality warper. And the Witch's Road, as you find out in the final episode, didn't actually exist. It was all a con created by Agatha to lure other witches in. They would attempt to open up the Witch's Road, and then whenever it failed, they would inevitably turn on her. Well, whenever they'd start blasting her, she would just start sucking up their energies until they were dead, making her stronger and stronger. And you actually see like a montage that's happening through the ages. Kind of like the 80s look there for Catherine Hahn. But this all happened because she had a son. And all throughout the show, there's various rumors as to what she did. Like, a lot of them think that she traded her son to Mephisto for power or something like that. And that's not what happened at all. He got sick and died, and there was nothing she could do to change what was happening. And that part was actually kind of sad. So the Witch's Road was a song that he was singing, and so then she turned that to her advantage and would bring other witches in with it and kill them. So she's kind of protective of Wiccan for various reasons, but mostly because she reminds him of her son. And it doesn't pull any punches. Like, she admits that she's done all kinds of things, killed all kinds of people, and tries to explain to Wiccan, like, that's what it means to be a witch. Like, people are going to come for you. Like, you got to be ready to take them out. Now, obviously, she went above and beyond that, and she doesn't, she tries to equivocate occasionally, but overall, she doesn't really shy away from what she's done. So she ends up, at the end, Aubrey Plaza's character is apparently Death. And I'm assuming they mean, like, the cosmic personification of Death, the one that Thanos is supposed to be in love with. But I don't know for sure, because, like, they fight it out in episode 8, and that would be the shortest fight in history. because she's a oh, I don't remember what Marvel calls those characters. A constant, an absolute, something like that. It'll come to me here in a minute, maybe, hopefully. One of the abstracts. She literally represents like a facet of reality kind of thing. Like there's one for love, there's one for hate, there's one for death, and so on and so on. And so there's no real way to fight them, and at least, and definitely not to win. So Death had given her an ultimatum because Wiccan isn't supposed to exist. He was supposed to be destroyed when the Scarlet Witch things collapsed, but now he's out here in someone else's body, so he's destroying the balance. And ultimately Death gives her an ultimatum: either he goes or she goes. And she agrees, and then sacrifices herself to save the kid. So she dies in episode 8. And then in episode 9, you see the flashback of, her life, the kid, and, growing up and having to deal with the fact she's a witch, and then using all that to take advantage of the other witches to fuel her own power. Also, her early encounter with Death, and trying to bargain for her son's life. And so that's why earlier in the show, Aubrey Plaza's character there, whenever they all thought her name was Rio, mentioned that she hurt someone that she loved a long time ago, and that's what it was whenever her son died. So so Agatha's hated her ever since. So, for centuries. So, Agatha, though, comes back as a ghost. And the kid, Wiccan, realizes that the Witch's Road, that he made it all in his head. And it's a moment kind of like in towards the end of The Usual Suspects, where everything all kind of clicks into place there in his room. And he realizes that there was no Witch's Road, realizes that she just used it to lure other witches in, and so she was just as surprised as anybody else in her it actually materialized. And so with that knowledge, then you re-see the scene from the beginning of the show where they try to open up the Witch's Road, and she's surprised, but like her initial reaction of like, oh man, I guess it's all a fake, and she's trying to start a fight with the other witches to get them to use their powers against her so she can absorb them. And but then the door is actually there. So so Wiccan's also forced to reconcile that since he actually made the road, that he's responsible for some people's deaths. And she tries to kind of walk him back from that, explaining that, the people that died saving them. And so, while yes, they are dead, they died doing something noble and heroic. So, he didn't kill them. He initially is going to banish her, and because he has her locket, and so he's able to, because it's something that mattered to her in life, and so he's going to try to banish her. And she's able to disrupt it by, becoming angry enough or whatever to physically affect the world, and knocks the locket out of his hand. And he's trying to figure out why she's so obsessed with not passing on. And he realizes it's not because she's afraid of dying. It's because she can't face her son after what she's done for centuries. Because she knows what she's done is awful, is terrible. She's killed all kinds of innocent people. And, her son was innocent. He died a small child. He wouldn't recognize the monster that she is. And she can't deal with that. So, instead, he agrees to not banish her, and she agrees to teach him about magic and to go find his brother, because at the end of the Witch's Road, the whole idea is you get what you most desire, and the three that made it to the end got what they wanted. The woman who was the potion witch realized that she'd been bound, so she couldn't use most of her powers. And she realized that Agatha was the one who bound her because a guy paid her to do it. You know, it wasn't anything personal. She didn't know her. So she's able to perform the ritual to unbind her powers, so she gets out. And then Agatha helps Wiccan focus and find a body for his brother to jump into. And, someone is dying. And so he does, but he doesn't know where the person is or anything. And so then the last thing is she says, hey, so let's, I'm going to help you go find your brother now. And that's where it kind of leaves off. And for anyone that goes into it, so like I said, I thought the show was decent. I thought the end was good. For characters that I didn't care a whole lot about, it made them more sympathetic at the end. And, again, she's still a villain overall, but I could see this being the beginning of a redemption arc. So, now, there's going to be people out there that are like, oh, this thing's going to have terrible ratings. They're going to cancel the next season. There is no next season. This was a one and done. Just like Wandavision. And there's supposed to be a third show to round the whole thing out. And I think it's going to deal with Vision and probably resurrecting Wanda, if I had to guess. Because if he's a reality warper, then, that can happen. So, overall, the show's maybe like a 5.5, maybe a 6. It's not great, but it's, it's short. It's 9 episodes. If you liked WandaVision and you thought Agatha's character was interesting at all, you want to see some more magic stuff, it's a side of the MCU they haven't covered a whole lot. So there's not a whole lot of rules to break because there's not a whole lot of rules that have been established. So that's good in its favor. Not a lot of continuity to break either because it revolves around a character that got pulled in from a TV show. So, it has these advantages over something like The Acolyte. And, like I said, it wasn't terrible. Wouldn't be my first choice. Like, if I was going to try to sell someone on the Marvel shows, I'd go with Loki. Straight up. Loki season 1, and hopefully I'd go and watch season 2. Because I thought season 2 had a spectacular ending. But this, like I said, the ending's good. You hit some low points in between, definitely some cringe moments, but overall, I was entertained by it. And, but that's about all I can say. Like I said, I'm not going to sing its praises from the mountaintop or anything. It's worth checking out, if you like the general MCU stuff. I mean, I thought it was better than, say, Ant-Man 3, for instance. I think I can safely say that. I thought it was better than She-Hulk. But again, I don't think I was really the target audience for She-Hulk, so take that for what you will. But anyway, that's about all I got to say on that. So let me know what you folks think. Did you watch it? Do you plan on watching it? Look like a pile of trash? Look like it looks stellar? Let me know down in the comments. I want to hear it all. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. That's how we grow the channel, particularly sharing and commenting. They'll seem to do the best. But, so any of that, we thank you folks for it. And, Now, I guess the next up on Disney Plus will be a Star Wars show, The Skeleton Crew. We'll see how that goes. I don't even think I've watched the trailer for that. That comes out in December. That's next month. So anyway, that's all I got to say, folks. So just watch out in your travels out there and make sure you don't find yourself on the Witch's Road.